The night was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that comforts you. It was the kind that presses against your skin, the kind that makes your breath feel shallow, the kind that keeps your mind awake even when your body is begging for sleep. My name is John Mercer, and this is the story of nights when my body forgot how to rest, and my mind forgot how to be still. It all started with pain. A small pain at first, then sharper, then pounding, until it felt like my jawbone was cracking in tiny, invisible ways. I had waited too long to remove my wisdom teeth. Much too long. And maybe that's why my body reacted the way it did. Why my nerves twisted into strange patterns. Why the nights stopped feeling human. Every 3 hours, I had to wake up to take another pill. For days. 3 hours of sleep. Wake up. 3 hours of sleep. Wake up. And slowly, very slowly, my mind began to change. It stopped resting. It started watching instead. Listening. Waiting. As if something was out there waiting back. One night, the air in my room felt thick. Too warm. Too heavy. Like the walls were holding their breath. I turned under the blankets, shifted, sat up, lay down again. But sleep refused to come. It stayed at a distance, watching me the way a predator watches a weak animal. I finally stood up and opened the window. Cool air slicked inside, but my mind stayed awake, more awake than before. That's when I heard it. A sound. Soft, gentle, a faint scrape. Scrape. Scrape like something sharp being dragged across a surface. At first, I thought it might be an animal. There are plenty around where I live. But this sound had a pattern. I didn't want to react. Didn't want to give life to the fear blooming inside my chest. But the sound kept going. Louder, slower, almost thoughtful. In the end, I decided to check. To prove to myself it was nothing. I grabbed my father's flashlight and stepped outside. The grass was cold. The air smelled sharp. My breath came out in thin, silver clouds. I aimed the light at the roof. Nothing. I circled the house slowly, carefully, sweeping the beam across the shingles. Up, down, left, right, and then movement. A quick, unnatural flicker. My stomach dropped. My heartbeat stumbled. I jerked the flashlight upward, and what I saw froze me completely. It was a person. Not an animal. Not a shadow. A person. Standing on the roof. Bare. Still. Clinging to the shingles like a creature that had forgotten what gravity meant. Every muscle in my body turned to ice. Cold. Stiff. Unable to command my legs to just a small, broken breath escaped my throat. But it was enough. Because the thing, the person, heard it, and it began to run on the roof. Fast. Too fast. its feet hitting the shingles without the sound of slipping, as if friction simply did not apply to it. My flashlight followed the shape as best it could, but I lost it in the quick, impossible steps until I understood where it was going. Back toward my window, back toward my room, back toward me. I ran around the house, toward the back, toward the window where I slept or tried to sleep. And when I reached it, it was there, standing at the edge of the roof, looking down. For a moment it seemed like it might leap away, disappear, dissolve into the night. But instead, it jumped straight down, onto the concrete walkway. No fear, no hesitation, no instinct to protect, but it stood up, as if nothing had happened, as if bones meant nothing. And then it ran at me. That was only the beginning, and the night was far from over. When that thing ran toward me, time slowed. Or maybe I slowed. I don't know. I only remember my heart pounding so hard its sound filled my ears, and my breaths coming and going in short, fragile bursts, as if my lungs had forgotten how to work. My body said run. My heart screamed run. But my legs turned to stone. The beam of my flashlight shivered in my hand. I couldn't tell if it was from fear, from the cold, or from the horrible image of that thing hitting the ground with that unnatural thud. Its landing did not sound human, not like a person, not even like an animal. Something in it lasted only seconds, but those seconds stretched like an entire lifetime. There it stood in the darkness, a pale, naked shape, motionless, listening to something I could not hear. Then its head turned, slowly, smoothly, to the right, toward the back of the house, toward a place where no one should be. I turned too. Nothing there, but it saw something. Something I didn't. Without warning, it bolted, not toward me, not toward the road, but around the house, into the dark, like it was chasing something, or like something was calling it. I stayed frozen, for seconds, or minutes, I truly don't know. When I finally remembered how to breathe, my legs remembered how to move. I stepped back slowly, until my shoulders touched the wall. The flashlight trembled in my hand, its circle of light dancing across the wet grass. I heard nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no rustling. The night had become too quiet before I forced myself to go back into the house. When I finally stepped inside, I closed the door hard and leaned against it, as if that old lock could protect me from something like that. I turned on the lights, all of them. Living room, hallway, kitchen, anywhere the darkness could try to gather. The brightness didn't make me feel safe, but it pushed the shadows back a little. I found my phone, tried to call someone, anyone, but my fingers were shaking too much to press the numbers. Eventually, I returned to the bedroom, slowly, carefully, like someone who knew something was still out there, but didn't know where. The window was still open. Cold air slipped into the room. The curtain swayed gently with each breeze. I stepped toward it, just to close the window, pushed inward. Not from the wind, not from the night air, but by a hand. When the curtain pressed inward, no sound escaped my mouth. Fear had stolen my breath from my chest. The curtain bent slowly a little more. It was as if someone stood behind it, pressing their fingers against the fabric. Slowly, deliberately. I stayed completely still, my eyes locked on the same spot. The flashlight lay on the bed, just a few steps away, but my legs refused to move even one step. Behind the curtain, in the dim light, I could see the outline of a person standing at the front door with their back to me. It was terrifying. I watched for a while. The figure tapped the glass again and again, as if expecting someone to answer. But it was insane. It was past midnight. The house was dark. I tried to make out details, but the dim light revealed nothing distinct. As I watched, the figure slowly began to turn. I ducked under the curtain just in time. My heart raced. I crouched there for what felt like a minute, afraid they had seen me. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I took a deep breath and peeked again. Slowly, I stood, pulled back the curtain, and instantly regretted it. There, just 2 feet away from the glass, was a face staring back at me. I screamed, recoiled from the window, yanking the curtain shut. Even in that brief moment, I could see it was a man with shriveled skin, like someone whose. Screaming uncontrollably, I grabbed my phone and called the police. The cops arrived about 10 minutes later. Anna and I stayed locked in my room. I wanted to run to see where the intruder had gone, but Anna held on to my arms so tightly, I couldn't move. When the police searched the house, everything was locked. Nothing was missing. No sign of forced entry. They told me to call if it happened again, and left. The rest of the week passed without incident. I told my parents, who surprisingly didn't seem very concerned. We live in a safe neighborhood, so maybe they thought I was overreacting. But I wasn't. Because for the past few nights, I've been waking up to strange noises outside my window. Not the trash cans like before. Something different. My dad is planning to install security cameras. But I can't shake the feeling that the man at my house wasn't a one-time visitor. If anything else happens, I will make sure to record. After that night, no matter how hard I tried to calm myself, I couldn't. My mind kept returning to that scene, to the moment when the lines on the glass appeared before my eyes. Every time the day ended and darkness crept in, my heart began to race. It was as if the night itself was signaling me. His return is near. The next night, sleep barely came, and when it did, only for a few hours. Something woke me. Not a sound, not a light, not a movement. A feeling I cannot describe. A feeling like someone staring at you from the dark. At first, I tried to ignore it. I closed my eyes and convinced myself it was only my imagination. But after a few seconds, the same scratching sound returned. This time, softer, as if it didn't want to scare me, but only to make sure I was awake. Soft, soft on the glass. Scratch, scratch. Not loud, not fast, but continuous, dragging. Enough to make the hair. Was beside me, but I didn't dare turn it on. I knew if the light fell on the glass, I would see something I wished I hadn't. The scratching did not stop. It deepened, as if something was trying with its nails not only to feel the surface, but also beneath it. It was like it wanted to know, how far is the glass from breaking? That thought made it hard to breathe. I found the courage and pulled the curtain slightly aside. Not much, just enough for my fingertips. And in that moment, something moved behind the glass. Very slowly, a shadow, a shape I couldn't fully see, but I could completely feel it. So close, I could almost sense its breath against the glass. And then, something happened I will never forget. A breath. Not mine, not the wind. The sound of someone standing right behind that glass. Slow, uneven breathing, as if something was stuck in their chest. If I pulled the curtain just 1 centimeter more, our eyes would meet. And I didn't want that. Not that night. Not ever again. Footsteps came from the yard. Slow, deliberate, but fading. The scratching stopped. The breathing stopped. Then silence. And I remained frozen, unmoving, even after the footsteps vanished completely. But that night, I realized something for the first time. It didn't want just to watch me. It was learning the house. It was closing the distance. And I knew if it returned, it wouldn't stop at the glass. The nights grew worse. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt something moving closer to my room. A pinching sound, or a rustle, or a soft tap against the window. It was no longer normal. These sounds didn't wait for me to wake up. They came to make sure I was awake and watching. I don't know how many minutes passed. Hours. I just felt that thing standing there waiting. And then, a breathing sound from the direction of the window. Huff, huff, huff. Not the wind, not an animal. A human breath, but unnatural. Like someone whose skin was wrinkled and face melting away. I didn't know what to do. Turn on the light or just sit there and stare. I couldn't move. Like sleep paralysis, but it wasn't. I was fully awake and fully terrified. For a moment, I dared to pull back the curtain slightly. I saw a shadow, I couldn't make out the face, but I felt its gaze directly on me. My heart wanted to leap out of my chest, but I couldn't move. The shadow slowly retreated. Its steps felt more like a presence than a sound, yet I could feel them. That night passed, but something had changed. No window felt safe. No room felt like a refuge. I felt that something was that the next night it would pass without harm. Mornings were no longer pleasant. The sunlight didn't help. The sound of birds wasn't soothing. Everything felt like shadows, still following me. Sometimes, when I woke in a half-sleep, I felt things moving on the walls. Not really, but from the corner of my eye, and every time I looked, there was nothing. But the feeling always remained, heavy and close. One day, I decided to set up a small security camera on the window, not because I thought someone would break in, but to calm my mind. Night came. Everything was quiet, but the camera was on, and I was waiting. Hours passed. No sound, no shadow, just silence. And just when I felt maybe my mind was playing tricks, I saw something moving on the camera. A dark shape, crawling slowly on the glass, and its gaze fixed on me. But I didn't move. My breath was all I could control. Hours passed, and the shadow went away, but its mark remained. That night, I realized I might never be truly alone again. My house would never feel safe, and I could only breathe and wait. Thank you for listening to our story tonight. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. We'll tell you another scary story tomorrow night.